The jury for Cristian Bahena Rivera's trial is set. Prosecution and defense teams agreed on 8 women and 7 men. We'll have more on the jury breakdown in just a minute. But first, 5 things you need to know about how lawyers selected these jurors. Local 5's Sarah Beckman reports.
Our legal expert to help us make sense of juries is defense attorney Matt Lindholm. First, the pool of potential jurors. There's not a set number of individuals needed in the potential jury pool.
In a case like the Molly Tibbetts trial case, there's been a lot of media attention, so that pool and that panel potential jurors is a lot larger than it would be for any case that doesn't have the media attention attached to it.
Now let's go over the questions lawyers can ask potential jurors. Prosecutors and defense teams pretty much have free rein to ask whatever they want.
There are some areas, I suppose, that get too intimate and personal and maybe outside the bounds of what you're ultimately trying to do.
So what's the goal of jury selection for both sides?
Ultimately, what both sides are doing is trying to ferret out from the jurors any preconceived notions they have about the particulars of the case, any existing biases that they might have.
As for the actual makeup of the jury, there isn't a mandate of a set number of men, women, ethnicities, and ages.
What the standard is a fair cross-section of the community.
So to wrap this all up, jurors have a pretty big job in the courtroom.
They are the most powerful people in the courtroom.
Sarah Beckman, Local 5 News, Weir, Iowa.
Well, joining us now is Denise Hyntka with our sister station, WQAD, in the Quad Cities. And Denise, you were inside the courtroom today during that jury selection. What were the defense and prosecution teams looking for?
Well, first off, kind of a makeshift courtroom. So the jury selection alone, just these 2 days of jury selection, being held in a little event center, the same place where the city would hold like an auto show. A large event center, they want to make sure that 180 people, all prospective jurors, were spaced out appropriately. So it had a little different feel than that stern intimacy of a courtroom. But regardless, after about 12 hours, they seated a jury of 15 people. So that's 8 women, 7 men, 3 alternates in that mix as well. You know, prosecution looking for a lot of the typical things. Number one, the case was moved here for pretrial publicity. So they want to make sure if you've heard of the case, that's fine, but you can't have any strong opinions on the case, especially about the defendant. You know, number two, they also want to make sure that people understand this is not some episode of CSI. You know, this evidence is going to come out slowly, very piecemeal, and at times, you know, it's going to be scientific. So they want to make sure people's expectations are clear. Another important thing that they hit several times was, do you have any negative opinions about law enforcement? Are you comfortable with trusting their training and how they would handle a situation like a murder investigation?
All right, now you just mentioned that the jury was broken down to 8 women, 7 men. Do we know the racial makeup of the jurors?
No, I don't know that specifically, but that will come out here in the next couple of days when we get to see them as a more compact group together. So, but certainly they spent about 12 hours narrowing that down and asking a lot of questions today and yesterday.
Of course, this is a very upsetting case. It was traumatic for people to hear the details that we do know about it. So did the prosecution and defense hint at what would be discussed in the trial as they combed through these jurors?
Yes, there was absolutely that warning of, we are dealing with the murder of a young woman. And they said, you know, you're going to see some graphic testimony, you're going to see some graphic photos. We're not going to overwhelm you with the details, but just enough so that you can understand, you know, exactly what happened to Molly on that day. One thing that the defense, though, made a lot of point to talk about was the concept of false confessions. You know, when they were questioning these prospective jurors, they said several times, are you comfortable with the idea that someone might give a false confession? Do you think that there's ever an opportunity when that might happen? Do you believe that that's a possibility in any kind of case? The other thing that the defense pointed out, which I think will come up, is Do you think that police ever should be taking shortcuts in a case? Do you think they could, skip a few steps here and there because they really are feeling the pressure, especially in a case like this that was so high profile, to solve it? Do you think that was something that police could ever do that would be appropriate? So most of the jurors, of course, answer no, that they do not think that's appropriate. But I think that's going to be a center of the defense's case, especially because we've seen these motions pre-trial of trying to get these evidence pieces thrown out, including some pieces of the confession that the Iowa DCI has told us about, that perhaps the defendant in this case, in fact, led investigators to Molly's body. So all pieces that will be up to the jury to decide here.
Very interesting day in jury selections. Denise Hyntka with WQAD, we thank you so much for your time tonight.
Of course.